majority of the people, well, pretty much everybody that writes that bridging exam never passes. Nobody can really bridge in. So the standard is extremely high. But I wrote it. I managed to get 40%, which is, I think, one of the highest marks. So when I came in to get my marks, the lecturer spoke to me about it and saying, well done, you still managed to get the top marks.
Oh, wow.
The highest marks, but unfortunately, it's still a fail.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the She Just Got Going podcast, a podcast that focuses on entrepreneurship and career advice. Today, I am joined by Elizabeth Figueiredo, my mentor, to talk about mentorship, our journey of mentorship, our experience, and just pretty much how to get the most out of a mentorship experience, how to find a mentor, the right mentor for you, and also just to go about mentorship in such a way where you're not wasting your or your mentor's time. We're also going to talk about her career as an accountant. So Elizabeth is a chartered accountant by profession. So she did her articles through KPMG, and now she's a Senior Financial Analyst for the Council for Medical Schemes. And yeah, we're just going to get right into it. So, Elizabeth.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Ella.
You're welcome. So we're going to start talking about mentorship. So just to give people a little bit of background, we met each other through a mentorship program at our church, CRC, and they paired us up according to information that we gave them. So I obviously studied financial sciences. I did a lot of accounting. I specialized in management accounting, and you're an accountant by profession. So when we started our mentorship journey, we pretty much had a coffee. We got to know each other, and one important question we asked ourselves was what we wanted to get out of this experience. So, Elizabeth, I want to ask you, what do you think makes a good mentor? So, if someone is going into an experience like we did, what do you think will make someone a good mentor for a mentor-mentee relationship?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Ella, because you need to obviously find somebody that's sort of in a similar profession. I think that definitely does help, or a profession you would like to go into. Obviously, it depends on where you are in your journey. If you want to, get into the profession that person's in, then you would obviously go and find out. But I think in terms of actual mentorship, it's so great that we had the benefit of somebody pairing us together as opposed to us having to go and find somebody. So we had that extra added benefit. But after many of our discussions, I really saw that because we had so much in common, it was really so beneficial, I think, to both of us. It was so amazing just to have those conversations. And what I'd found was that we had so much in common, very similar personalities, so it was really such a divine pairing, that you could say that, because we had so much in common, and because there were so similarities in our personalities, studying along the same kind of fields and those sort of things. And I think one of the most important things is also that we share the same faith, like we share the same values, same morals. A lot of principles are very much the same. And obviously, because we come from the same church, we get taught the same things. Although I do realize that a lot of people being taught don't necessarily echo those values as well. But I've seen that you definitely do. And that's what made it easier to mentor you. You were so open and, honest in what your expectations were. And I think that was some of the things, at least we had a whole setup as to how you should approach this. So we had a lot of guidance, which was amazing, which is, firstly, I think, which is the most important thing, is the purpose. There's got to be purpose behind it. So what are we expecting to get from this? And one of the biggest things was no unrealistic expectations. You can't imagine, you can't expect that this person is now going to offer you a job and say, oh, let me help you, I've got connections. It can happen in that situation, but I don't think you should expect that kind of situation when you go into it. And then I also think you need to know that this person is going to give you advice. And some of it you might take, some of it you might not use. But just like with everything in life, people will give you advice, and you still need to make the decision as to what's beneficial for you and what's not. What
Yeah.
can you really use and what can't you use? So I think the best thing to look for in a mentor is some common ground. I think that's really important. Someone that shares the same values and beliefs that you share. I think that's very important. As especially as a Christian woman, you need to know someone that's living that life and still being able to do everything.
Yeah.
Balance life and career, and still find fulfillment in what they do. That they're happy where they don't want to get out of this
Yeah.
profession that they're currently in, because obviously that's not going to help you. But someone that's passionate about what they're doing. I think
Yes.
the passion and finding purpose in what they're doing, and they still content where they are, and they're happy and they feel fulfilled in their career.
Yeah.
I think that's what you need to look for in a mentor, and I think that's something very important.
It's so good that you actually added that last part where you said it's someone that needs to be fulfilled in their career, because you can go looking around for every kind of chartered accountant or chartered managerial accountant, and maybe some of them don't even enjoy their job, and they're going to sort of, even if they don't mean it, those views are sort of going to come through in the things that they tell you. And maybe, they have a pessimistic view of the career. And now all of a sudden you think you've had this amazing mentorship session with someone, but all along they've wanted to leave their career. And now, you haven't really gotten the benefit of, because for me, I remember sitting in a lecture hall, and I think we had, I don't know if we call them demis, but it's someone that stands in for the lecturer. So they had studied what we had studied. They had walked the path we had walked. And I remember while she was lecturing us, she said, I hate corporate. You have to get away from corporate. And getting exposed to a message like that in uni already, that's where the doubts started. It's like, what is it about this working environment that people are so pessimistic about? And what was so nice, like you mentioned, we had common ground. I think you can still have a mentor that might not have the same faith as you, but it just made our journey so much more easier.
It definitely did.
It really did. And so for us, it was so nice that, we had that common ground that you spoke about, but also at the same time, you enjoyed what you do. I could tell that you are very invested in what you do, that you really go the extra mile, even above your peers. That's what I also, gathered, whether you get the reward for that or not. You always take pride in your work, and every work that you put out, it must be something that you take pride in, whether you were going to get rewarded for that or not. And that was also very much my personality. So like you said, there were a lot of similarities, and I loved that, because I looked at you and I was like, this could very well be me in a couple of years. So I want to learn as much from you as I can. So yeah, thank you so much for your response on that question. So I think, yeah, I'll just share pretty much the highlights I took from our mentorship experience. I think I'll outline a little bit how our mentorship experience was structured. So we were required, I think, to have 6 meetings.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
minimum of 6.
a minimum of 6. So we were required to meet up quite a bit. And so that could have been online, it could have been in person. I think we tried to do it in person as much as possible. So we had scheduled sessions. The onus was on us to meet each other. So that's also a really big thing. The responsibility is on you and your mentor to make an effort to spend that time with each other and actually have the sessions. Because if the intention and, like you said, the purpose isn't going to be there, I don't even think the sessions would have happened. So
Exactly.
it was really good that someone was holding us accountable to say, how many sessions have you had? How many have you got to go, and try to schedule them in? So that was the structure pretty much. So we had to have 6 sessions, and I know that you asked me, what I expected. So I wrote like a little WhatsApp for you with a lot of questions in it. And yeah, every single coffee was really like just a conversation. And what I really took was you being so open and honest, about marriage, about having kids, about, your family background that you came from, and how you've juggled all of that. Because I know we were mentioning a little bit earlier that not only do you work, as a chartered accountant, you're married, you have 2 kids, very cute kids, and you also have leadership responsibilities at our church, which anyone who is involved in their church will know can take up quite a bit of your time. So we were talking about how do you manage all of that. And that is the biggest takeaway I think I took from our sessions, is seeing someone that is managing all of it, and that it is possible. Sometimes you will feel overwhelmed, but there are ways to manage that. And you also mentioned, you've got great support, a lot of people in your life that believe in you, that give you these responsibilities. And so if they see something in you, you need to see that in yourself as
Mm,
well. So yeah, it was really amazing for me to just see, like you said, someone who is in the line of work I want to go into, or even very, very similar, and also kind of living a sort of life that I also see myself living in the future. Because
mm,
I think the closest thing I had to a mentor before us was my dad, but my dad is a mining engineer. So
mm,
there was no way I had interest of going into the
mhm,
mining engineering profession. So as much as I learned a lot from him, it helped so much that you were in accounting and that
mm,
you were in this phase of your life that you were in. So, yeah, for me, the most important thing that I took out of it was how you have balanced all of this. Your faith played a big role, but I want you to
mm,
talk a little bit more on that.
mm.
So, yeah, well, what did you really take out of the mentor-mentee relationship? Because, like you said, it benefited us both.
Yes, I think what was really great about the sessions was it just reminded me how far I've come. And I think sometimes we don't give ourselves credit for any of it, but we actually realize, wow, I've come far, and there's certain hurdles that and challenges that I've overcome. And I think it kind of gives you a little bit strength knowing that this is all a journey, and you can continue with the journey. But one of the biggest things for me is also how I've been able to balance it is also just having faith in God. I think that's one of the biggest things for us, especially as a Christian. You know, trusting that things that are beyond your control, um, that God's got it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think when you're worried about certain things and you're trying to control them the whole time, but it's beyond your control, it can take a lot of your time up. But I would rather take my time in investing in other people and helping others and being there for others. I think that makes a big difference. Um, Especially that was why I was also excited about getting into the mentorship journey with somebody else, is because one of the things I like to do is investing in other people, and seeing a reward from that. So just being a leader at church, things that I've been involved in, I'm very excited about things like female empowerment, like women, like empowering and uplifting other women.
Yeah.
And because I've been in that space and felt before where I haven't felt like worth it,
Mm.
and I feel like now that I've come far, and I've been through a journey, that I can share that journey with others and others can benefit from it. And
Mm.
I think that was the great thing about the mentorship journey, was that I could share my journey and I could share my expectations. And although some of the expectations, and like you said, I made sure that I was being honest with you
Mm.
about it. Saying that, for example, corporate might not be for everybody and might not enjoy it that much.
Mm.
And although my job can be quite time consuming and we have a lot of meetings, it's not as intense as some corporate jobs may be.
Mm.
And I've been very grateful to find my place where I am now, because as a mom, as a leader, I've been able to manage it all. And I think God's really helped me with prioritizing what is right for right,
That's good.
what is so important right now,
Yeah.
focus on that. But that you take out certain times during the day. Obviously, while you're at work, you focus on work, you focus on what you need to do. But when you've got your lunch hour, your lunch break, focus on, okay, I need to contact this person, I
Mm.
need to arrange for this weekend, there's certain things we need to do. So it's just taking time out to arrange and plan your life. I think that's really important. And then having God on your side, um, and leaving things in his hands, especially the things we cannot control.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how I've been able to balance it all. And I think those are some of the most important things, is just doing that. But also, you can constantly worry about the kids as well. There can be another thing on your plate, but we manage it and we get through
Mm.
it. And because we get through it, we know we can continue to get through it.
Yeah.
Nothing is impossible with God on our side.
Amen. Yeah, that's true. And yeah, I think that's everything you've said. Like every single time we have a conversation, I learn a lot. It's like things we've said before, but just to hear them again, it's
Mm,
important to hear them again.
mm,
And yeah, we both share that belief of women, supporting one another and not backbiting each other and trying to compete with one another.
mhm,
And so yeah, I'm very grateful that our church creates that space where we can support each other,
mm,
because you're actually leading a bit of like a businesswoman thing going on with
Yes.
ladies.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, yeah, how did you feel when you were tasked with being given that responsibility? Like you said, it's so nice to see how far you've come and
Mm,
how you feel about empowering women. So,
mm.
what is it like now being in this phase of your life?
Well, I was quite surprised at first when somebody had asked me to lead the group or asked me if I was willing to lead the group. Obviously, some people have more confidence in me than I have in myself, which is sadly so. But I was honored to be asked, if I was interested in leading the group. Obviously, somebody has to have a certain amount of confidence in you
Yeah.
to place something like this in your hands. So I was really honored, and I got quite excited about it. About what the possibilities are
Yeah.
of getting everybody together and extra things we can do to get people excited, use it as a tool to evangelize other women, use it as a tool to, share our faith with other women as well. Because, what is the whole purpose of life? The purpose is really about winning souls, and we need to get those ladies in that are business minded, but that need that extra support that they don't
Yeah.
have from being planted in a local church. And, like just having the journey that we had. You want somebody else to have the benefit of that as well.
Yeah.
So we really do encourage other businesswomen outside of the church. Anybody that wants to come and join us, they're welcome to come and join us. So, and it's quite exciting. Every topic that we've discussed has been very exciting, and we don't want to just discuss principles, but we actually want to discuss like things that people are struggling with, like practical things.
Yes.
Like how to deal with things also just from a Christian perspective as well. Instead of having this go-getting attitude in the workplace, a lot of people, like you said, trample on each other to get to the top. And how there's certain principles that we can keep in place and make sure that people are following those principles so that while you follow those principles, you trust God that He will get you to where you need to be.
Yeah.
And knowing that although we've come far, we've still got a way to go, and we still got further to go. There's still more to do. There's still more to be done.
Yeah.
And it's been so great just sharing those kind of principles. And one of those things that we actually did share was talking about having some sort of accountability, which is pretty much what the mentorship program provided for us is being accountable to each other. When you've got a business idea or when you want to do something that scares you, that you go ahead and you just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
You mention it to your mentor or to someone that's holding you accountable, and they will follow up with you. Like, hey, you said you were going to do this. You were so passionate about it. You might be scared, but do it. It's going to be amazing. You need that encouragement. You need somebody standing behind you. Also, cheering you on, saying that you can do this.
Yeah.
That's why we need that amazing community of women just pushing us forward and saying, we can do it. We don't need to be scared. We don't need to be afraid.
Yeah.
Just go for it. And somebody to hold you accountable and, just push through.
And that's awesome. I think it almost goes hand in hand with the mentorship talk, because it's one thing to walk a journey with someone one on one, but you can't negate the fact that you need a community. With your dreams or whatever you're going after, community makes such a big difference. And like we said, we're really fortunate that we found that in a church. And I think the greatest community, I mean, I've been involved in lots of spaces, in university, in school, in church. And I know a lot of people haven't always had the most positive experiences with the church. But I think, that's where I would say don't let one negative experience or a couple of negative experiences with your church now put you off finding that church community for you. Because it's so amazing, like you said, because we have our faith, it's so amazing to have a community that's also like-minded in your faith as well, because really in God we move and have our being. Everything we do really stems from that relationship. So yeah, I think we'll move on to the next topic about your career and the journey you've walked in accounting. So this is where I'm going to ask the two famous questions that I'm going to ask everyone on the podcast. And that pretty much is, but actually before I continue, I just want to say, if anyone really wants to find out how to become part of a community or our church community, reach out on the social media pages, whether it's on the Instagram page or on the podcasting platforms or YouTube. just comment, make a message, DM us directly, and we will find a way to connect you. Even if it's to our church. A little bit biased, but yes. So just reach out, and we would love to connect you and get you connected to a community. But yeah, so on to the two famous questions that I ask you. So you're a CA, you're a Senior Financial Analyst, and the questions that I ask on the podcast are, what is one piece of advice that you wish you could go back and give younger Elizabeth before this whole crazy journey started? And then the second question is, what was one of the biggest fears that you had to overcome and how you've overcome that?
Those are some tough questions, but I definitely know the answers to them.
Great.
So what I would have told my younger self is, I think it was like early on in my journey, when I went to first go and study. So I was very fortunate in the fact that my parents supported me and all of my sisters to go through the journey of getting a degree. So we were very fortunate. I was very grateful for the opportunity. They didn't really mind what we studied, and I did quite well in high school with accounting. I just seemed to have clicked with it. So that just seemed like the logical choice to go with.
Yeah.
And so I went to go and study financial accounting at the University of Pretoria. And I must say, I think I enjoyed the studies and all of that. But while I was studying, I met other people that had studied accounting sciences, and I got to know some of them, some mutual friends and that sort of thing. And I found out slowly but surely that, there was a whole nother route to becoming a chartered accountant, and that I hadn't initially started in that route. So, and I think it was towards my third year of my degree in financial accounting. Many people came from different firms, some of the big firms like KPMG, PwC, Deloitte, and all of them came to speak. They actually came to speak to some of us. Okay. But then I realized the correct journey would be studying accounting sciences. But obviously, I got my degree in financial accounting, and some of my friends had studied financial accounting sciences.
Yeah. So there's a difference that we don't have now. So pretty much like we were discussing, your financial accounting wasn't the normal CA route of accounting.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas now I think a lot of the universities distinguish it and make it quite clear that accounting sciences is normally the route to go. So now you were navigating how to end up on like the CA accounting route.
Yes. So, and then at first when I studied, I didn't have the whole course planned out. I didn't know this is where I'm going to go and have like a 10-year plan or whatever. I was just at that stage just going with it. Accounting seems a logical choice. I click with it. Let's start there. So I started. I enjoyed the studies, and it was great. But when I got towards my third year, I was like, where from here? Where do I go from here? And I realized, okay, there's accounting sciences. So I actually got a friend of mine to help me. So I'd gotten my degree, but when I thought about what am I going to do in the next year, I'd actually discussed it with my parents, and they said they would support me for another year in order for me to do my honors. From all the discussions we had with the big audit firms, they required us to have an honors degree, like an honors as well. So for me, I wanted to bridge over into the accounting sciences honors. The standard at the University of Pretoria is, however, very high. Yeah. Even just to get through the 3-year degree was tough. Especially for some of my friends as well. It was tough. But I actually asked a friend of mine to help me to write the bridging, do the bridging exam to see if I could get in. And majority of the people, well, pretty much everybody that writes that bridging exam never passes, and nobody can really bridge in. So the standard is extremely high. But I wrote it. I managed to get 40%, which is, I think, one of the highest marks. So when I came in to get my marks, the lecturer spoke to me about it and saying, well done, you still managed to get the top marks.
Oh, wow.
The highest marks, but unfortunately, it's still a fail.
Yeah. I think all of the accounting students definitely feel you in that moment, because they all know, all too familiar with marks like that in accounting.
Yeah. So for me, that was a setback. I was like, okay, now I can't do the honors in the place that I want to study. Yeah. And I thought to myself, okay, well, I've got some friends that are doing the financial management honors. And I thought, okay, I'm going to register for financial management. Let me go. Let me take this path. Um, Look, I think I was scared, or I knew there was another friend that wanted to register for financial, for the accounting sciences, CTA honors at UNISA. But I just thought to myself, oh, I think I'd sort of like given up on doing the honors and CTA at that point. So I had that small setback, and I think maybe in a way I was just a little bit scared. That's something else I would have told myself. In hindsight now, Elizabeth, you could have just gone straight for that. Okay, you didn't get the open door there, but try another university. But
not to short sell yourself, underestimate yourself.
Yeah, or just settle for second best. But it was so amazing when I'd registered for financial management honors, sat there for the first lecture where we all got together, and I just remembering feeling just so out of place, uncomfortable, having this, just this feeling that I'm not where I'm supposed to be. This is not for me. This is not for me. And I had this major realization that this is not the path I need to take. So I arranged with my parents. I just said to them, sorry, we're going to lose registration fee, but I can't do this. I just can't do this. I had just had this amazing conviction in my heart that this was not the right thing to do.
Yeah. And it's amazing that even at that time, you had the courage to go and speak to your parents about it immediately. Because I think many students have that feeling, and they're like, oh, no, it's maybe just jitters, I'll get over it. And then like only further into their degree do they realize, no, this is a mistake. And then going back to your parents, it becomes a whole big issue. And then they're like, you got to see it through. So making that realization so early, do you think, that was a God thing? Do you think it was a personality thing that you just knew? Or actually, you probably knew yourself well enough. I know like we're all young in university and we're trying to figure ourselves out. But clearly you knew yourself well enough to know that this is not for me.
It was definitely a God thing. And even though, once I'd left my parents' home to go and study, I really moved away from a lot of the things of God. But the one thing I did do every time I wrote an exam was that I prayed. And I didn't fail anything throughout my degree. I passed everything, and I did really well. I think I just came just short of actually getting my degree with distinction.
Oh, wow.
So I really I put time and effort in, and and I did well. So what I did was at that stage was when I was sitting there, I just knew. I think it was definitely God. Maybe at the time I didn't realize it was God because I was, I didn't have that same relationship that I had before. But it was definitely God steering me in the right direction as to where He needed me to be. And I think that's why also my parents didn't have any issues with me going to register at UNISA, which is what another friend of mine was doing. We registered at UNISA to do the accounting sciences honors and CTA, which you do in a period of a year. And I took that year out and I said, I'm going to take this year out and I'm going to give it my best shot. But honestly, I did not have that amazing confidence in myself to do it. I think also the fact that I didn't pass that bridging exam, having failed, I think my confidence was very low at that point. And I think I was scared going in, and I was just thinking, sure, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. And, you hear about all the other accounting sciences students, many of them that were my friends, chatting to them and how scared they were. And I think I just mirrored that, I just picked up on the emotions, and it made me scared as well, So I didn't believe that I would pass. Like in my mind, I wasn't confident. I just didn't believe that I would pass. So that's definitely something I would tell myself, if I had to go back and speak to myself, say, you can do this, you can do this.
Yeah.
All you need to do is pass.
And maybe find different friends. But I understand that. I think when you're in uni, everyone has their fears, but it really doesn't help when all of you think you're going to fail.
Yeah.
So I always tried to be that voice in my degree, even if I knew very well I was also terrified, to be that voice of positivity and say, it's okay, guys, like we studied really hard, we can do this, because your words are powerful. So yeah, but
it is. very
Yeah, it's
powerful.
amazing that, now looking back at it, you wish you had believed in yourself more.
Yes.
And now someone, who might be watching this can actually say, you know what, I might be in the same position you were.
Mm,
I don't have faith in myself anymore. I've also failed something. Where do I go
mm,
to from here?
mm,
Just believe in yourself. Obviously, also trust in God, but really, I actually relate to that so much as well. You're capable of a lot more than you
mm,
think you are.
mm. And you definitely are. Just put your mind to it. You can do it. And so I enrolled for that year of honors and CTA, and I just worked part-time as an au pair, which gave me just a little bit of extra cash there.
Yeah.
And I had signed up during that year with a small audit firm to go and work for them, because in my mind, well, this firm would accept me with or without the honors and CTA. So
Yeah, you
I
just
was like,
went for
I had
it.
nothing to lose. I wasn't taking a risk, nothing. But when I got towards the end of that year and I got the results that I had actually passed, I was so amazed. And, speaking again, to some of my accounting sciences friends, many of them that did not get through their honors and CTA would
Yeah,
now
I can
not get their
imagine.
spots in the big four firms,
Yeah.
because of that. So I never even attempted to go and get a place at one of those firms. In my mind, I was just like, I'm already taking a big shot in the dark here just by studying accounting
Yeah.
sciences.
Can relate.
Yeah, I'm taking a big risk here. And yeah, I was still like so amazed that I'd actually passed.
Mm.
And I didn't pass amazingly, but
But you passed.
a pass is a pass, and that's something that I've realized now. Nobody's going to ask me with how much did I pass my accounting
Yeah.
sciences honors and
Obviously, you gave
CTA.
it your best, but yeah, a
Yes,
pass still opens the
but a
door.
pass is a pass, and I realized that nobody's going to ask me what my results were unless I'm going to study something extremely academic, and the results really mean a lot.
That's
But
true.
now, if I'm looking at it like almost 20 years later, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So some of those things like a pass is a pass. And I realized, wow, I'm going to be bold. And I know that maybe some of the students that did not get through their CTA honors would not be having their spaces at one of the big four firms. So I took some courage and I started phoning the big four firms. I phoned KPMG, Deloitte, PwC, Ernst & Young, and I just gave them all a call. And I ended up getting an interview with both Deloitte and KPMG.
Mm.
I had mentioned, look, I have my honors. I've passed. And KPMG were quite impressed. And they're like, but look at your results for your degree. You did really well.
Yeah.
Although it wasn't accounting sciences, but you went to go and study that now. And now you've passed your CTA honors. Which is great.
Yeah.
A lot of
It all
students
worked
don't
out.
get through. Yeah, and it all worked out. And they were like, "Why didn't you apply sooner?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I was
afraid.
scared. I was scared."
Oh my word.
Not something you honestly want to admit to other people, but I think when you admit and you're just like honest about your journey with others, it opens up others who are in that space to now be a bit bolder or have a bit more confidence. So I ended up getting the position at KPMG as a trainee accountant, and that's where I started.
Yeah.
But I must say, along the journey, at that stage there were two major exams we had to write to become a chartered accountant.
Yeah.
And the first exam was literally in the March of the year that we started as our articles, and I was even told by somebody that the fact that I had studied at UNISA means that I had less of a chance of passing this
that's
exam.
still the narrative.
So, and again, then I had this fear again, like, oh my gosh, I'm really going to have to study so much harder than everybody else in order to get through this. And I wrote the exam and I passed. And I just,
That's
it was
awesome.
quite an amazing sense of accomplishment for me because, I'd been selling myself short all the time, but I was like, past this first exam, I've got it and I can do this.
Yeah.
And after 18 months of articles experience, we wrote the second one. Sadly, at the time, shortly after that, in the beginning of the following year, I went on a secondment to the US. and I could work there for 3 months in Virginia, and that was a great experience. But while I was there, I got the very sad results that I had not gotten through my second board exam.
Yeah.
And, although it was a setback, I was like, I'm going to try again.
Yeah.
I'm going to try again. And
never give up.
the sad reality was that this exam that we wrote was so focused on exam technique. And I think I hadn't brushed up as much as I should have on that.
Yeah, no one actually tells you how much exam technique can see you through an exam.
Yeah. And they told us and they warned us, but I think I just didn't.
You downplayed it.
Take that advice as much as I should have. But anyway, I wrote the second one, and you also have the looming thoughts that people place in our head about, the longer if the chances of you passing at the second time round, the chances just get less and less of you passing. Because some people never ever pass those exams.
That's true.
Then they give up. But I wrote it the second time round and I passed.
Well done.
And then I got my CO, which was great. I worked another year for KPMG. And then, so it was amazing. And that's how I got there. But I must say, along the way, there was a lot of setbacks. And I would have definitely gone back to tell myself, you've got to try again. You've got to try again. And it doesn't matter what the rest of the world is saying or what is happening out there for others. If this is the path that God has chosen for me, I will be successful in it. We just need to be led and trust the Spirit to guide us where we need to go. And I honestly feel that wherever I had felt like I need to do this, or this is where I don't need to be, and I moved, and I was just faithful to that feeling that I had, which I really realized now was God, and God just led me to the right place where I needed to be. And I would have never expected when I first went to go and study that I'd end up being a chartered accountant. But I ended up there, and it was amazing. Just the fact that I'd gotten that far, it was amazing. I was, I felt a great sense of accomplishment at that point. So even though there were so many little setbacks, it's, I can definitely tell someone who's in that specific space that you just need to keep on trying, keep on going. The door might not open in the beginning, but keep on trying. Sometimes your second chance is your best chance.
That's really awesome. Pretty much a question that I want to end off on is, you've now, you know where you came from, you know where you are now. There obviously were some very difficult times in your career, but how did you know that this is just what you were meant to do? Yeah, because a lot of people are, like I said, like we've discussed, going through those emotions. They don't know what's them, what's God. They don't know which voice to listen to in their head. They're going through all these emotions because they've just started working. It's stressful. Some careers, the stress just comes with the job. So how do you navigate knowing if this is really for you, with all the stress and everything that comes with it?
Well, I think the answer probably came to me, when I started the job that I'm currently in, because during my articles, it was really tough. This was my first working experience. And during those 3-year articles, we worked really hard. It was a lot of overtime required for some of the audits that we did. And although you become a chartered accountant, you actually do auditing for those 3 years. So you're basically figuring out how not to do everything, because most of the clients you go to are doing a lot of things not the right way. But so we learned a lot, but it was tough. And my then boyfriend, now husband, was really the one that pushed me through that and really encouraged me. And I must say, I think without his support, we met like in my first year of my articles. And I think without his support, I wouldn't have, I don't know if I would have stuck it out, but he was just there for me, saying, come, just push through, you've got another 2 years, or you got another year left, just push through, you can do this, It was really rough on me. I do remember some like difficult conversations we had about it, because I was tired, and it was hard work and a lot of time spent, getting some of the work done. And to be honest, I didn't enjoy the auditing.
Yeah.
Like I said, studied to become a chartered accountant, which meant I was going to work a lot with numbers. And yes, you work a lot with numbers, but the auditing is a lot of theory work that you have to learn. The auditing is a lot about procedures and doing this and writing up certain things. So the auditing, I knew it wasn't for me, like to audit and go through a lot of theory work and certain things. So the things that I was doing then, I knew I just needed to get this through this part of the journey.
Just this part.
Yeah, and find the right place where I need to be in terms of the rest of my career. Your article's is just 3 years. And I ended up staying there for another year. But I think I was just really not happy doing what I was doing there.
Yeah.
I stuck it out for another year as the supervisor and as a manager. And it took me a while to find the job that I currently have. But, I was patient. And when I'd found this, it was really amazing. Like, I just felt like a lot of things just fell into place when I got this job. It's not working a lot of overtime. There were periods that just one specific month where we have a really tight deadline where we might need to work some overtime. But it was really amazing how God brought this to me, and how everything just felt in place was like I knew where I was, and I knew that this was the right thing for me to do. Many chartered accountants out there are like financial managers, but I didn't feel like this was the kind of route I needed to take as a chartered accountant, But as I got into this position, so many things just fell into place, because we had plans to get married. I just wanted to be a CA before that happened. Then we got married. We had just gotten married, and then the following year is when I got the job. And as I started working, I really enjoyed the kind of work that I was doing, and
as an analyst.
Yeah, as a financial analyst, and I wasn't really involved in preparing the work, but I was looking and analyzing financial statements of medical schemes, which is still what I'm doing, but I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And it gives me a lot of flexibility with work. It's not as demanding. So, when we started with kids and my husband wanted to change his career, from being in IT now to becoming a chef, I must say the job that I got, and
I'm sorry
how I was
to
enjoying.
interrupt, but I have to say, so you just said your husband changed his career from IT to becoming a chef.
Yes.
So for anyone that lives in Pretoria, do yourselves a favor and actually go to Wood and Fire at Brooklyn, because your husband is the chef there. The food is so good. I'm not saying this just because it's you. I've been there. I've been back again. My friends have as well. And so, yeah, that also is like probably a different conversation. Like that could have its own episode on its own. Just that story.
Just that story
as well. But just how God works it out, and like how amazing things turn out when you just trust the process. Yeah,
and I think the finances that came with this job, I mean, I first started, I already got such a great offer. And when I first started, they had given everybody else increases. So I immediately got an increase.
Nice.
They collapsed our 13th check into our salary, which means I got more money out on a monthly basis. And it was just amazing. God had just blessed me as I stepped into this position. And it's been amazing. And, I've been there for quite long now, and I've learned so much about the industry, and it's so interesting. I actually really do enjoy the work that I do, but it's at the same time blessed us financially, but at the same time I haven't been overworked, and I still have time as a mother to spend with my children. I'm not working overtime and working late nights. It's allowed me to have that, and especially like I just mentioned now about my husband going into a different field and changing his whole profession. Financially, we were fine, just surviving on my salary. So we were really blessed with this position that I got. So And a lot of those things just affirmed to me and how things fell in place. I just knew this is where I need to be, and this is what I'm going to enjoy for a long time.
Mm.
So what I'm doing is also medical schemes are not for profit entities, and they cover medical expenses, obviously, of members. And I really feel quite fulfilled in fighting for their rights. Making sure that the finances are managed properly by the people that are in charge of the medical schemes. And we need to make sure everything's done according to the Medical Schemes Act and all of that. So I do feel like I'm fighting for people and God has sort of placed that sort of desire in my heart to be fighting for others. And that's why I also, as far as I've gotten now, I want to help others to get there too. Sometimes it's time for us to now give back.
Yeah.
God's helped us this far.
Yeah.
People have helped us this far. People have walked a journey with us, and things have been totally different. We in 2010 we became top members in CRC, and that's where a lot of things have changed for us in our in my husband's career and in our marriage, where things we're just getting better and better, and things were just amazing at that stage.
But before that, you were coming from like a place of questions and a lot of struggle.
Yes, exactly. And I think during my articles, I struggled with a lot of anxiety, from the work that we were doing. But I must say, like afterwards, like I just knew I am where I am, and I think that's where I know I am where I'm supposed to be. After I got back into that amazing relationship with God, He gave me peace about a lot of things. And I just realized that, we need to take time, and instead of focusing on all our challenges and certain things that we don't have control over, trust God and He will show us the way. And that we can just go and invest in other people. It's so fulfilling for me. It really is. So that's where I give of my time, my talent, my treasure, where I am, where I'm planted. And I think while I'm doing that, God's just working out everything else for me, So I feel really fulfilled in just giving back.
Yeah.
And that's where God's kept me for a long time. And I think it's amazing, because I think it's great. Many people jump around this position, that position. Some people jump around to get ahead. But I must say, I really haven't felt the need to do that. And I know that although maybe I want to move into a more senior position or a more prominent kind of position, in the right time, God will make it happen.
Yeah. And it's so important that you've said in the right time. And I think that's the great benefit we have with our faith is, the Holy Spirit really does lead and guide us. Like you said, we just have that feeling. We just have that unction where we know I shouldn't go this way, or maybe now I should do this. And timing is everything. And so knowing, when is the time to stay and when is the time to go and when is the time to move. We've definitely benefited a lot from our faith with that. And I think it will definitely help, I hope it helps anyone listening who has doubts and is in that place where, like you said, your articles were very hard. You were working a lot.
Tough.
You really ask yourself, is this what my life is going to be like for the rest of my life? And, you stuck it out, but you were still looking for another job. And so sometimes it's not the career that's the problem. It might even just be your place of work. And I think if you have the opportunity to navigate that and get into a different job and really see if it's the place of work or if it's the job, then I think people should explore that option. Because I mean, nowadays, so many young people are moving into careers and moving out because they're just not fulfilled. They didn't sign up for it, And so, I want to thank you so much for your time today, Elizabeth, and for everything that you've shared. Like I said, I always learn so much when we have conversations. And I know that, like you said, you've come so far, and your story really, the beginning, the end, everything in between, so much can be taken from that. And like you said, people can, take what they need, take what they don't need. But I think our stories are really important. And that's pretty much what the essence of this podcast is you will be surprised how many people have actually, walked the journey that you're walking right now and how they navigated it. And just learning from these stories, you don't have to go through the same trials and tribulations that they did. We all have our own challenges. But like you said, now you've walked a journey with other people. God has brought you this far, and you can now, impart back into others and give them that valuable advice. So Yeah, I just want to thank you so much. I know that everything in the future for you, I'm really excited to see how it unfolds with taking on a more senior position. You
Mm.
always do everything in excellence. So I know whatever role you take on, you will really own and be so great at that role. And yeah, we're just going to close by pretty much saying, remember, if you want to reach out or have any questions, please ask them on the social media platforms. And I really hope you guys learned a lot from today's episode. If you have any questions for myself or Elizabeth, you know where to ask in the comment section. And yeah, that is the end of today's episode.
Oh, thanks so much, Ella.